What's your next topic? I'm ready for you.
There are a number of people, including me, who believe the Green Bay Packers will get to the Super Bowl, or at least should have gotten to the Super Bowl. Now that Jordy Nelson is gone, do you still believe the Packers are a Super Bowl team?
Yeah.
I'll go first. Yes, I do. Look, this team still has arguably the best quarterback in the game, arguably the best running back in the game in Eddie Lacy, or at least one of the top 2 or 3, and arguably still another wide receiver is still on this team named Randall Cobb. They have a second-round pick from last year named Devontae Adams, who contributed last year, and now he's going to move into that starting lineup, and he's a really nice talent, and they've got a very good defense. So, I had Seattle and I had Green Bay slightly ahead of Seattle. Now I think it's more of an even thing. I think there's going to be some drop-off in Seattle for a number of reasons. So I think I would not be surprised at all, even without Jordy Nelson, if the Packers get to the Super Bowl.
Here's the thing about Seattle and Green Bay that I look at. Seattle, I think, is in a weaker division this year. St. Louis is not much, really. I mean, they got brought in Foles.
They can battle you.
And
they can
Fisher's
surprise
a good coach,
you.
but St. Louis is not overpowering. San Francisco, we're talking about them.
Going to be a
San
dog.
Francisco is not going to be much of a team.
No.
You picked them to win 3 or 4 games, I think, somewhere around
They might be
range.
the worst team in the league.
And Arizona. So you got a quality team in Arizona.
Yeah, if Carson Palmer stays healthy.
But I can see Seattle with a little bit easier schedule, something to prove that they're going to have a good record. They've got the best home field in terms of crowd noise and playing there,
Right.
slippery when wet that field is.
Teams have to travel a long way to get there.
So that's the edge to them. Green Bay's got the edge, and they got a better quarterback. They do have depth of receivers. They do have, I think, a defense that's not as good as Seattle's, but it gets
Still
cold
pretty
there.
good.
They play well at home because they're playing in cold weather all the time.
And they have a great home field. I mean, that's like a college atmosphere. So
They have a tougher schedule. They got to come to places like Denver. This is going to be a tough game for them to come here and win. But look at the division. Minnesota is a good team. Minnesota, we think, is going to be a good team this year.
Yes.
Adrian Peterson come back. Bridgewater with a year under him. A good defense there. Minnesota's going to be a challenge for them. I think Chicago is not going to be a great team, but I think they're going to be a good team. John Fox doesn't put really lousy teams on.
I'm not with you there. Bad defense.
Well,
Bad,
they got to go to
bad
Chicago.
defense.
Well,
and they still have that, and they still have
realize
that
that, but I
quarterback.
think there'll be a team that'll make it tough for Green Bay in Chicago. Detroit, despite losing their 2 best defensive linemen,
They're going to be tough.
They're going to be tough. I think Green Bay's going to have more of a struggle in the division during the course of the year. So the edge, when you talk about it, it's about like this. Take Jordy Nelson, and you can't take him out of the equation, but if Seattle can get the home field, you got to like Seattle a little bit
I would
more.
agree with that. My
If
money would be
Green
on
Bay
Seattle if they had home.
I think they're going to have an easier time in their division than Green Bay. So that's where I give the slight edge that I don't like Green Bay going to Seattle.
The other thing about Green Bay is they do such a good job with the draft. You said it. They're a deep team. Now, yeah, you're not going to replace Jordy Nelson. He's a 100-catch guy and a 1,500-yard guy. He's one of the best deep threats in the league. He's absolutely Aaron Rodgers' best deep threat. But they're still a deep, deep team. And they still have the second-round kid, Devontae Adams, who's a pretty good player.
How did they do that, though? Remember when it was Pittsburgh and Green Bay in the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Green Bay won the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I did the numbers. There were like 50-something players, 60 players on the 2 teams that have been draft choices.
Yeah.
They're not a team. Green Bay doesn't go out and get free agents like other teams do. They draft well. And you think, it's Green Bay, Wisconsin. They can't get free. People don't want to, even though they're good and have been good, free agents don't want to go live in Green Bay. It's just not an atmosphere, cold and all that stuff, despite the proud tradition. And they don't overspend for players. They like developing their own. I don't quite know how they have done it for so long. We're going back to the Brett Favre era of how they basically have out-drafted people.
You just touched on it. They've had 2 guys at the quarterback position that tells players, if I go there, I can win. I'll put up with the cold. I'll put up with the lack of the urban nightlife and restaurants and all that other stuff.
Or lack thereof.
But I know I could win. I know I can win there with Favre and Aaron Rodgers. This portion of the show sponsored by Shanahan Steak. Why don't you tell people about Shanahan Steakhouse?
Well, but speaking of steakhouses, you know who owns the steakhouse in Green Bay?
I do. Mr. Montfort.
Isn't that amazing?